Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. Sorry we're a few minutes late. If you know me at all, it's because of IT. I suck at that shit. But tonight we are joined by Tamborine Borrelli. She is actually a candidate in Washington State for District 10 for U.S. Representatives. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Tamborine.
Thank you, Joy, for having me.
Absolutely. The first thing I noticed about you, which isn't totally political, but to me it means a lot, is that you're a huge animal lover.
Nah.
And you were posting about bees, and the problem we're having with the lack of honey and the way bees are being treated, and you also share videos about dogs and stuff. So that's a big part of my life. So I think that says a lot about a candidate. I digress, but I always touch on that.
On the contrary, it's really connected to compassion, and if a human being can have the compassion to connect and go into other forms of life, nature, animals, it's very telling, what state of mind and what state of heart that they have. And, I think if anything that we're lacking and what we're in desperate need of is radical compassion, to compassion is definitely something that we could get a double dose of.
Absolutely. I think, I was talking about that the other day when I think the number one problem this country is suffering from is the whole "it hasn't happened to me, I don't give a shit," like that lack of empathy. If we could get that, I think so many things would change. So I think
Yeah.
absolutely. Tamborine is actually a 2016 delegate for Bern. And we were talking earlier about how she was a delegate and then she joined the protesters like me out on the lawn after they saw what was starting. The fuckery that Shill and her gang were doing to us. Something else I noticed on your page is you are affiliated with the U.S. Anti-Corruption Act. Can you describe a little bit about what that is?
Well, I just recently got involved with Represent Us for the American Anti-Corruption Act. And basically, it's rooted in making bribery illegal again. I mean, Citizens United, most of us think that our problems began in 2010 with Citizens United. However, decades before that, the issue began its seeds and its little shoots that shot up out of the ground, because actually Princeton did a study and they looked at data, I believe going maybe 40 years back, and the data produced just a bottom line of they saw the policies that were popular in each decade, and they weighed that juxtaposed to the legislation that was actually passed. And they came to the conclusion that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the quote is actually very chilling, the whole quote. But for the most part, basically they found that the people had, and this is a quote, near zero effect on public policy. So, say for instance, if all of the people, if everybody was wanting, say, something like Medicare, right? In the legislation in Congress, that would give it at least a 50% chance of passing if all the people wanted it, right? But if you see it on the graph, it's near zero effect of passing legislation. However, or actually 30%, I believe, is the highest that it would get. Now, if you look at those, the lobbyists and all the big money, their influence of what they want, the legislation they want to pass, it's overwhelming. Just staggering to see the graph, how it just shoots up at the top in regard to those bills that get passed by those who have the money. And again, this preceded Citizens United. So the American Anti-Corruption Act is rooted in that we really have to, before anything else, because there is a long list of issues that are the populist issues that matter to us, that matter to the people. However, if we do not address that one singular issue, if we cannot stop the money pouring into Congress through lobbyists and special interests, then we are running uphill, and unfortunately, it's a hard road to traverse. As many
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely learned that, and something else we learned in 2016 is that we don't fucking need them. We did a campaign all on our own with We the People. We didn't need any corporate money, any donors. We didn't need any of that shit. So
You're talking about with Bernie, right?
Hell yeah. Certainly not Hillary. But yeah, I mean, I just had my 50th show over the weekend, and every single person I've interviewed has the same, theory, the same belief. No corporate money. We don't need that. And something else I loved about researching you is that you call yourself a public servant and an activist. You don't call yourself a politician. And that's important because, and I want my audience to know this too, this woman has been doing this way before November 8th. This is a person who was arrested for which one was it? Democracy Spring.
In April of 2016, it was a march from Philly into DC, and we sat in on the steps of the Capitol there, and on the first day, about I think 400 of us, including I think Cenk Huger was within the group that we got arrested with that first day, and it lasted throughout a whole week. But yeah, to just repeat and reiterate what you said, I'm not anywhere close to a professional politician, and I never really want to be, because we've got plenty of those, and we see the state that we're all in. So yeah, I just want to bring whatever my life experience has brought me, and whatever I can do and be to help shift all the aspects of this society, all of the ways. There's so many. It's so overwhelming sometimes, but I'm not alone. So there's plenty of people right now all over the country that view themselves as public servants, that are inspired to do the very thing that's in my heart to do. So thank you for acknowledging that. I think it's an important part of running for office at this time, no matter what city or state that you are running in.
Absolutely. And something I got really hype about is that you are independent. I'm like, I interview so many Dems, and no offense to them. It's just, I'm a super, super, super proud independent. So when I get one, I feel like I won the lottery, because that, you're part of the Dem Exeter crew. You're one of us. So was that a difficult decision for you? Did you consider going Dem, or what was your thought process as far as what party to run under?
So here's the thing. The truth is that before Bernie, I was part of the demographic that never even voted before, because I've always had a very sharp discernment of bullshit. and politicians always seem to have more than their fair share of that. And so I never wanted to lend my energy, much less my endorsement, because a vote is saying, I believe in who you are and what you're saying that you're going to do. And then it always baffled me that every election, it's like people had amnesia, because here this politician would be stumping and saying all the things that they're going to do, and it would never happen. And so, I just was like, does everyone forget, that they say one thing and do quite the opposite? So, I never involved myself in politics. Obviously, Bernie, he inspired me because I felt that was a window of opportunity that maybe it can be different. So I actually ran for state senate in 2016, and I ran as a Democrat. And this is tying into why I'm not running as a Democrat. 15 minutes before the filing deadline, the establishment Dems in my legislative district pulled out of retirement and recruited a retired politician who was very well known here in Washington, 20 years of service in the House and the Senate. So they figured, and mind you, the incumbent is a Tea Party Republican. And so they would have rathered, and again, it's the microcosm of what we experienced in the macrocosm in 2016. They would rather have cut their nose off to spite their face. And it's well known. It's not a speculation. They didn't want a Bernie-crat to get that seat. So, we did very well. However, of course, we didn't make through the primary. But for 2 months of campaigning, we got within 5% within Thurston County of that not the incumbent, but of the Democratic, well-known politician. So this time around, I just, listen, first time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. I understand the transition that's going on in the Democratic Party. I have very many friends who are Dem Enter, fellow delegate brothers and sisters who are now committeemen, committeewomen, and I respect their choice and their decision. And, if there could be some Democrats that truly have a progressive heart, and these people that I know do, then so be it. Beautiful. But, we all have our posts. We all have written within our heart what our path is. And my individual path is not to reform the Democratic Party. My inspiration is to create and expand an avenue for all of the disenfranchised, upwards of 60% in the country now, who do not and will not identify with either party. And within my own district, 50% of the people don't vote. And I would dare say that it's because they want nothing to do with party politics. So that's the root of my decision of I want to be able to be free from any of the constraints of the BS that goes on. I mean, right now we've got great progressives running in Washington, Dorothy Gasquet, Robert Unzinger, Sarah Smith, and they're fighting tooth and nail. They've got to fight their own party and, the fight of trying to convince people why they're the one that they should vote for. So I just said, no, thank you. I'd rather, focus on reaching the people that would love to know that there is actually a person that is really just tired of old politics and is committed to bringing in a new paradigm shift. So did that answer?
Oh, hell yeah. You read my mind. Now, can you just refresh my memory? Is Washington State open primary?
It is open
Sweet.
primary. Yeah. Top 2 open primary. You don't, the cool thing is you don't have to, there's no requirements in regard to having to register with a particular party. So, we've
That's
got
definitely
we've got some.
advantageous. Because
Yeah,
I'm in
absolutely.
Pennsylvania. You don't register 30 days ahead of time. Oh well, you're fucked. You can't vote for the person you want then if you're not in the party. So that's definitely advantageous. What before I forget, what date is the primaries?
August 7th.
Oh, okay, good. So you have 6 months to go yet. That's good.
Yes.
So I'm sure I'll have you back on in that time. But
I'd love to.
something else I noticed you're affiliated with Election Justice USA.
Yes, yes.
And as you know from being at the convention, Miss Shyla,
Mhm.
so how can you explain what that is and what you guys do?
Sure, yes. Shyla was one of the original founders of Election Justice USA. Since around the convention, she hasn't been affiliated um, with EJUSA. There's about four of us now that are on the board. And at this point, especially after the last election, we're focusing on open source. And eventually, the inevitability is to be a trifecta is paper ballots that are hand counted at the precinct level before the sun sets on that election. That the paper ballots are counted, you have a receipt. And say, for instance, you go in and the machine says, okay, I want to vote for Bernie Sanders. You pick Bernie Sanders. A receipt spits out. You have a receipt. You take home with an identifiable number, like a code number of your receipt that's identifiable to you and who you voted for. At the same time, there's another one that comes out that's your ballot. That receipt's like a ballot and put in to a ballot box, a transparent ballot box, that at the end of the day, those are counted. And it's also open source. So, with open source and blockchain, right? Blockchain is, some people, if you've not really heard about it, it's what cryptocurrency is rooted in. And the thing is even if someone were to try to hack or influence by way of getting into the code, the thing about open source and blockchain is you could not do anything without everyone's eyes on it and have it correct itself. So really, the trifecta is paper ballots, hand counted, uh, under a strict chain of custody, open source, and blockchain. And so that's what the board of Election Justice USA, what we are concentrating on for the next
What
election.
about open primaries?
In regard to, you mean just
Do you think
nationally?
that that's also important as far as voting goes? Because we saw what happened in California, New York, Las Vegas, these places. If we had open primaries during, a lot of these places where their votes weren't counted or they were turned away, are you for open primaries in the rest of the states who do not have them?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, God, we can all agree our electoral system is so um, purposely dysfunctional. Um, the fact of the long lines, and I mean, people have to fight just to be able to get the honor to vote. Here in Washington, we do mail in. Um, but then again, sometimes that's an issue because in this last election, just for the primary, I was privy to the fact that there were thousands of ballots that did not get counted uh, for a mail issue, and they got sent back to the people. And by the time they sent them back, it was too late. So there definitely has to be just a major overhaul, and it can be done. These are problems that do have solutions, but the issue is the people that are empowered to make legislation, it is not in their best interest to fix these problems. So that's why we have to get new representatives who have the expertise and the passion to do what needs to be done to correct these issues, or else we will never have a democracy. Elections, fair elections, accurate elections are the root, the cornerstone of any nation's democracy. So it is on the top of the list. We have to gut this one and recreate another that's for the people.
Absolutely. Hell hath no fury like a burner scorn. I'm telling you. It's a damn truth. So I was checking out your platform, and you do talk a lot about homelessness. Is that very prevalent in your district?
You know what? I'm really sorry to say that it is. Um, you know, listen, we all have known about homelessness. The society as a whole, there's some you know, desensitization that goes on, and I'll speak just for myself and take responsibility for that. I mean, how many times in my life have I exited a freeway and there's a human being there holding a sign, and there was one moment that it pierced through that kind of veil of, that's just normal and just ignore it. There was one day where it really just it hurt so bad when I just looked in my rearview mirror at this person that has likely, a family somewhere, that was someone's son or daughter, you know, and what happened in their life that they are on a corner, you know, recently there was a cleanup sweep that I was involved in here in Olympia, and a group of us were cleaning up the area. It's called the Jungle, and it's a wooded area in between commercial businesses that literally at least 100 people live in, and it's owned by three different people. The property converges in three different areas within that one parcel, and the owners were talking about coming and having them evicted. And the problem is, most of these people here have been evicted and swept from some other place in the city. And it's like, they're making it illegal for them to just be. And I understand, business owners and their concerns, because, people don't want to come into their business if there's, trash or someone sitting outside. I understand that. But again, this is a problem that has a solution, but the solution is not to, take the blankets away from the homeless so they can't sleep there. The fact that it's illegal to be somewhere, that's illegal, but it's not illegal to take the only thing that a human being has to keep them warm. That's not illegal. There's something wrong with all of that. So, the time that I spent there helping to clean up, it really just drove it home. It's one thing to see and pass by, but to really be within their living area and see how human beings are living. Sorry, the phone rang. to see, human waste there, and the degree of trash, because they don't have what we have, the garbage company that comes and picks it up. So it accumulates, and it just is it in the greatest country of the world. It's just, it should not be. There's 50 million, no, I'm sorry, not 50 million, 50,000, for instance, veterans that are homeless. These are people that, dedicated their life, in the services, and they come back home and, likely suffering from PTSD and other addiction problems, mental health problems, in poverty. I mean, the amount of, we have JBLM here, Joint Base Lewis McChord. And, I would say, I believe the statistic is 1 in 4 are on some kind of, food insecurity program. It's just that, I mean, honestly, it is beyond imagination that we can accept the fact that, the government, the Congress, with a stroke of a key, can create $700 billion for an already bloated military budget that does not ever see the individual soldier and their life. That goes to line the no bid contract CEOs, their bank accounts. So, um, you know, I get on a tangent, so stop me at any time.
No, and I was thinking the same thing. And then, the other problem that with that so many people don't see is all the Democrats that voted for that. You got Elizabeth Warren, you got Cory Booker, you got Kamala Harris, all those so-called Democrats, they signed on to that. So
right.
People want, they say Republicans. Yeah, but we all know the Republicans suck. I mean, they don't owe us anything, but the Dems, we were calling ourselves Dems for years, and they proved to be just Republicans in a lot of ways. So it's incredible when people talk about that bill, but they kind of negate the fact that so many Democrats were involved as well.
Yeah, and it's so many. I mean, I could go down the list, especially the incumbent in my race. He votes with the GOP a lot of the time, and really what that really drives home is that there is one party when it counts, because the one party, it's red and it's blue, and basically it's for corporate interests, for their interests, for their greed. They're putting over the people, their individual interests, their financial interests. That's what they have in common. It doesn't matter what they call themselves, Republican or Democrat. It makes no difference. What is the fruit that's coming from that tree? And it's one tree. There might be two different fruits coming off of that tree, but it's one tree. It's the same tree. And that tree was not planted for you and me.
That's the damn truth.
I mean,
you also support the Fight for 15. How much is the minimum wage? And because I know Seattle changed, how much is it in your area?
Yeah, Seattle's 15, but our minimum wage, I believe, was $11.50. But we just passed an initiative to go up to $13.50, I believe, and that's gonna transition within the next few years.
Oh, okay. So as far as, I love the idea of Fight for 15, but it's like, I feel like by the time, I don't know, I feel like by the time it would be accomplished, don't we want to fight for 20?
Yeah, honestly, if you look at inflation, the minimum wage should be at least $21. That's a barely a living wage. That would be the minimum wage, just to get by. Because, you just can't make it on that. I mean, the cost of living today, it's insane. We were just saying that, there used to be a day you could go to the grocery store and $100, you'd come out with, a good, 6-7 bags of groceries. And now it's like a few little bags that, last you not even the whole week for $100. So yeah, we definitely, and then not even to mention what's on the horizon with all of the AI and the robotics that are happening. This is really a serious issue of automation, and if you really research it, you'll see it's not some far away time in the future. It's happening right now. There's a hotel in Japan that they have 7 human beings working there, and everyone else is a robot. There was a successful cross-country semi-truck that was completely automated 1 million truckers stand to lose their job. You know, automation is on the horizon. We have to start looking at that and what that's going to mean. Retail jobs, you know, UBI is something that we need to consider and see how that is. Universal basic income.
That's we actually we found through our research that UBI is actually something, when you look at other countries, they the average amount that people get is only 652. I think it's 600 something per month. And it's not very sustainable. We actually, on our show, we talk about a Green New Deal, which is basically federal job guarantee, which means everybody gets a job regardless of what your skill set is, what you've done in the past. You're still able to have gainful employment should you be trying to look for it, because we have the ability to create more jobs. It's just other countries do it.
Absolutely. I'd be really interested in learning what you guys are talking about in regard to that, and,
Sure.
and what areas, well, for one, what comes to my mind is in changing the infrastructure into alternative energy. People talk about, oh, well, there'd be so many, people out of work, we can't just, transition, but that's not true. The amount of jobs that would be created by implementing a new alternative energy infrastructure. I mean, hundreds of thousands of jobs for decades, I would imagine. I just don't know to the degree, what I'm saying? It's an unknown at this time in regard to just how many jobs is automation and robotics going to take, and what is the time frame in relation to weighing that out with I agree, many jobs that would be available in new technology, for instance. So that would be something definitely to weigh out and see what would be the end result of that.
Awesome. Absolutely. Something else you talk about on your platform is women's health in particular. What I noticed you were at the Women's March a few weeks ago. What's something that inspires you to put that on your platform?
Well, it's on my platform, not because it's really in danger here in Washington. It's a pretty progressive state. But I put that on my platform because it's something that is immutable. Women's health should never be questioned. Women's health should never be threatened. There should never be a situation where any woman would have to consult anyone outside of her own being in regard to decisions about her body and what she chooses to do with it, especially as it pertains to bringing in another human being into this world. That's just something I believe in. And as a representative, I would always fiercely protect that.
And that also goes along with Medicare for all and universal health care. So that is on your platform as well. Today I was sent an article about Planned Parenthood has actually made a statement that they will not be continuing to fight for Medicare for all.
Oh, is that right?
Huge deal. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Why?
I was just sent the link today.
What are they stating the reason?
They don't think it's feasible. Apparently.
Medicare for all is feasible?
No. That's what the article said. So if one of my co's here can actually put that up here, it's going around Facebook. But yeah, that was just sent to me today. It's incredible. I mean, first they endorsed Hillary, so I kind of figured they were like losing it a bit, but yeah, that's not okay, because for someone who talks about women's rights all the time, we should be promoting Medicare for all or universal health care that affects not only women but children and men and everyone. So yeah, that's disappointing for real.
Well, you know, I mean, just to put a little plug in here for our initiative that we just got, it's going to be on the ballot, I-1600, for our state single payer. We're very excited about that. We are going to be, our campaign actually is going to be helping as well get signatures to get that on the ballot. There's also two bills that are in our state house here. So we Washingtonians are really serious about single
That's
payer.
awesome.
You know, like if the lawmakers aren't going to put it in, we're going to be damn sure that we're going to be out there getting signatures to make sure that the initiative is passed. And, you know, we were one of the first states to pass legalization of marijuana. So, you know, don't put it past us. We're going to make
I was
it
just
happen.
gonna get to that as well.
Yeah.
I saw your picture with your shirt on and everything. So is that something that you hope that our entire country will finally do at one point?
You're talking about the shirt that I had at
It was,
TanaCon.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was at
yeah.
TanaCon in Seattle over the last weekend. The answer is absolutely yes. It's absurd that marijuana is still a Schedule I drug, right along with heroin and PCP. You know, opioid addiction. I mean, I think I just saw a statistic the other day that said 3 people a day here in Washington die from opioid addiction. That's 730 people a year. How many people do you think ever died in any city, any state in this country from a marijuana overdose?
Crazy.
Zero. Zero. And, you know, I don't have to tell you, I'm sure, that the reasons behind that stem and are rooted in nefarious agendas that are tied to the private prison industrial complex to keep people in prison, keep that prison slave labor going. It's so disgusting to me, you know, that our government, Sessions in particular, uh, saying that marijuana is not medicine, right? However, the question is, then why is there a patent held by the government as medicine? Marijuana as
Stop
medicine.
beating me to all my questions.
Sorry.
I was gonna bring up the prison complex next, but no, you're 100% right. Absolutely, and I don't think Sessions is a doctor, so I'd rather listen to doctors what they say about medical marijuana and the fact that it's helping people with relief from cancer treatments and seizures and stuff. I think I will take my advice from an actual doctor.
Yeah,
So,
listen, I've seen it with my own eyes. My my Roddy Shepherd, Bella, who just passed recently, really from old age at this point, she lived 3 years longer than she would have. She had tumors and you know, I would imagine malignant cancer, you know, but I have personally rubbed canna butter on a tumor that erupted out of her leg. It looked like a little brain laying on top of her leg, split her skin open. I rubbed canna butter on that tumor. I'm telling you, that thing disappeared. It disappeared, and her skin grew back together. So,
wow.
you know, listen, we all know regular people that have either known someone or have had a personal experience, they understand what's going on. This is a medicinal plant that really addresses many things, but the problem is it is not in the best interests, again, of big money, of big pharma. How many, wow, how many people, you know, would not get their prescriptions filled if they had full access? There's people, I know people in other states that have had to move out of state just to have access to this medicine because they couldn't afford the prices of big pharma. I mean, there is the kicker, isn't it, for you, that not only do they make life-saving drugs so expensive that people have to choose if they're going to eat or pay rent or take their medicine, but then they want to outlaw something that they could grow in their backyard. It's just so, it's so not right. It just is not right.
Absolutely. I've worked in healthcare for a decade. I see it all the time. You know, elderly people on Medicare who, do I cut my pill in half, or do I eat, or do I take one every other day? And then they wind up in the hospital and get those bills anyway. That's what's heartbreaking. So
you
yeah.
See what I mean? Compassion. We're lacking compassion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that also goes back to money in politics. Also, like, I'm in Pennsylvania, and my rep voted against the bill that Bernard drafted against big pharma, and he voted against it. So I'm right in Harrisburg. I went right up to his office with a petition with signatures and a letter demanding he explain why he turned this down. And everyone who came with me brought their purses full of all their meds, and we're like, look, this is what you're, you know, going up against. Like, explain this. And, you know, they know who I am, so I didn't get a response. I can tell but it's, I mean, they need to be held accountable for this. They get beautiful health care themselves. So, and for them, their family, everyone like that. And, you know, for us, it's, you know, fight for ourselves.
You know, this past summer, I went to a town hall with the incumbent, our current representative, and, you know, there were 500 people in the audience, his constituents, and many were calling on him to co-sponsor HR 676. And he said basically that, you know, it wasn't fully formed, and, you know, just the same old rhetoric. Said that, you know, then your Medicare Advantage would disappear. Now that's an ignorant thing to say, because who cares if it would disappear? You wouldn't need it anymore, right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But you know, you have to research that to know. So it's that chicanery. It's the, you know, the one that throws the stone and then hides the hand. You know, and I stood up and I said, you know, with all due respect, you know, when we, the people, hear politicians say one thing and then do another, like you just said, money, the corporations aren't people and money isn't speech. Like, you know, threw that out there for everyone to make him think that he was, you know, for, you know, against corporations. I said, but, you know, when we hear politicians say one thing, but their actions are quite the contrary, you know, we look at your campaign finance reports and can see that your biggest donors are indeed the very insurance companies that would stand to lose if you did sign on to HR 676. And we can't help but wonder, is that why you're withholding? And, you know, he said, whatever answer that I give you is not going to be good enough. You know, I've had 40 years of service, and, you know, Tamborine, if you want to look at my campaign finance reports, you can go ahead and do that. But at the end of the day, I sleep well at night.
If you guys want to see what she's talking about, her video is on her page. And I was just like, damn, she is holding her shit together, because I would have bitched his ass out so bad. You stayed professional, but still handed his ass to him. It was pretty great.
Oh, you know what was so funny is that, like, right before he took my question, it was coming up to the time that it was ending. He was like, "But I've got a second second wind. I can keep on going." Right, right after he answered my question, he was like, "Well, I think we're gonna call it a night."
That's awesome.
Down.
Now that's some savagery. That's what's up.
Oh man, but you know what? Here's the thing, and you're right. We have to not just hold them accountable. We cannot allow this type of pseudo representation to go. The fact is, in other town halls, he literally told friends of mine, this was like 2 weeks after this particular one that we just talked about, and he said, and they begged him. His constituents were begging him to sign on to it. Okay, someone that was elected by these very people. And you know what he said? He said, I have my own mind, and you're not going to change it. And frankly, I think you're wrong. Okay, so where did it become? When did representation turn from being the person that is voted to go into DC and represent the minds of those constituents? What they want, what's on their minds and their hearts, what's best for their lives and their families. When did that turn into, I have my own mind, and you're not going to change my mind, and you're wrong? That is insane. That is insane that is allowed to pass for representation. That's what we have to not tolerate and demand. Representation that is in the nature of the word itself. Representation of what the people, your people in your district want. Nothing less than that.
And what's even more insane would be the people who would vote for him again. That's what I don't understand. If you want to be hopeful and, okay, he says these things, I think he has my interest at heart, and then he proves otherwise, go to a new candidate. He just showed you he doesn't care.
See, now this is where we have to do a paradigm shift in thinking in regard to party politic BS, voting blue no matter who. That is going to get you people who tell you that they have their own mind and it doesn't matter what you want. That blue no matter who, for instance, there are those, progressives that think it's more important to go after the Republicans, in other districts even, because we can't afford to have, this Trump thing is, this resist thing. And here's the problem. When you are spending your time and your energy pushing against what you don't want, that is time and energy that is not going to what you do want. And it's a trick. It is a distraction trick, because when we're all fighting amongst each other of, these things that get, thrown into the conversation, it's a distraction. And when we're distracted, we're not focusing on what we want. Well, what do you want? We want Medicare for all. We want student debt to, not choke the upcoming generations. We want our seniors to have a dignified life and not have to worry. We want, God, the list goes on and on. And the thing is if we don't get it together and stop focusing on things that really are not in our power to change, for instance, like impeach Trump. you impeach Trump, then you're going to get Pence.
Am I talking to myself right now? Because I feel like I am.
And then not Pence, then Pence, then Ryan.
Yep.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? So that is, to me, in my humble opinion, a fool's errand. Because if we were to stop putting all our energy in the fool that is in office, I mean, like my friend Michael Mayo said, yeah, but let's all look at the clown on the wire, right? We're all looking up at the clown on the wire. Meanwhile, our pockets are being picked. We're getting knocked the hell out left and right. Our civil liberties are being picked off one by one. Our privacy is to shot, and anyone at any time is in danger of having their emails and phone calls without, warrantless surveillance. I mean, this is the state that we're in. We have to rally together and put aside, the micro disagreements about things and really get clear on the major meat of the situation of what we want to accomplish, of people who consider themselves, for lack of a better word, progressive, because I'm beginning to hate the word. It's so bastardized when you have clearly neoliberal people calling themselves progressive. It's just like, can we find another word, please? But until then, until us progressives can come together and get clear on the main issues that will affect our lives and our progeny's lives, then, we're really just spinning our wheels. We've really got to get it together. In my humble opinion.
Right on. Yeah, I feel like I'm speaking right now. Like, and the comments are saying that too. And they're like, is this joy? It's bananas. Like, you're like, we're in sync. I totally agree with you 100%. What is something that, should you get the position, should you get elected, what is the top thing you would want to focus on? I know it's kind of hard because you're passionate, but to pick one thing, what is the first thing you'd want to work on?
Getting money out of politics. Yeah.
Because I think that says it all.
Literally, because you can't expect the fox to, do the right thing in the hen house. You just can't. So, the other things are just as important, but we can't do those other things unless we have people that sponsor and co-sponsor legislation that will make it so lawfully, so we've got to get people in there that, for instance, how hard it is to run a campaign without taking that big special, corporate interest money. It's just like, and they know it. They laugh and drink their, 300-year-old scotch, laughing with each other, knowing, oh, it doesn't matter. These so-called progressives trying to get this office. We know at the end of the day, our money will always win. We have to prove them wrong. So if I could say anything to anyone that's listening, it is not about replacing an individual representative. It is about replacing a system that has gone so far beyond if there ever was a level of acceptable corruption. It is way, way past that. And the only way we're going to do it is if we get people in there that will not be beholden to those corporate special interests. And the only way that's going to happen is to repeat what we did with that man, Bernie Sanders, in 2016. We have to find whatever fire that is, whatever inspiration that is, and find some candidate running in whatever city or state that you're in, and do whatever you can. If it's $1 you can give, if it's an hour you can give, so you can look yourself in the eye and say, I did everything I could to change this system. Because until we do that, again, we're at a loss.
Absolutely. Can I actually come stay with you for like a month? I'll help out. I'll knock doors.
Absolutely.
That would be rad.
You can help me feed my chickens in the morning. They all have
Yes, that would
1940s
be so awesome.
names, like Edna and Harriet. And
that would be rad. That's amazing. After we get off the air, you have to read some of these comments. I have never seen my audience love someone so much.
Oh my God.
Like, people are feeling the hell out of you. Like, because
so
you're
sweet.
real. You are so real. Like, it's just obvious. That's what we need. And Guillaume, yeah, I'm going to call you out. Guillaume he is part of RP, and he loves coming on and saying negative stuff. Like, just because not because he's like a mean person, but just because he's serious. And he's like, I love this woman. And I'm like, holy shit.
You're like, man, if Guillaume did it, she's got to be cool.
Oh my gosh. The one thing that it's so easy to get wrapped up in a conversation, but the other thing I wanted to bring up was, are you familiar with what MMT is?
Yeah, I'm learning about it, and by no means am I an expert, and I know for a fact that probably everyone on Real Progressives is much more of a master at it than me, but I know enough to know that it's true, and it's an accurate assessment of federal financing in our country, and it basically explains it, financing throughout the whole world. This fiat currency that we're on is not based on anything since we got off the gold standard. And, it definitely warrants the respect that you guys give it, for sure. And I really would like to learn more about it.
Awesome. Oh, wow. Guillaume loves you even more now.
That was for you, Guillaume.
See, now I gotta have you back just for that alone. I cannot thank you enough. I knew I was gonna love you the second we started talking through Messenger. I was like, I've known this woman for 10 years. Like, you're just an amazing person.
Thank you so much, Joy. I feel the same.
Absolutely. So we are definitely going to have you back on before, primaries. Absolutely, for sure. I'm not asking, I'm telling. So we'll keep in touch. But thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching. And Friday, I have my show at 9 p.m. Eastern as usual, and I have New Hampshire candidate Mindy Messmer. She's the one who was disinvited to speak at the Women's March. So this should be an interesting talk. But again, thank you so much, Tamborine. You are amazing, and thank you again all for watching.
Thank you, Joy. Could I just shout out my Twitter and a couple?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Please, if you guys can, follow me at it's at Tamborine, and my name is spelled TAMBORINE, the number 4 us, at Tamborine for Us, and my site is tamborine2018.com. And again, if you guys can just share my page, Facebook page, and as every candidate does, ask if you've got $2, $1, please help us. We need all the help that we can get. Printing costs money, and the only way that we're going to compete with one of the most wealthiest Congress persons in our race is to at least be able to have the bare necessities. So I ask you to please, if you're inspired, help us out in that respect. And again, Joy, thank you so much for having me on. I've been wanting to come on the Real Progressives for so long, and I had such a good time with you. And I can't wait to read the comments.
Oh my God, they're amazing. They are amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tamborine. Take care.
You too. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. how freaking awesome was she?